Welcome back, everyone, to Blue Collar Startup. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson, joined by our other host,
Mr. Derek Foster. How we doing,
Derek.
Mike?
I'm good, man. How are you, brother?
I'm good. I got caught on the road here, running around, so I apologize. I'll try not to make everybody dizzy during the episode. Keep my phone steady, but I am in the vehicle.
Yeah, no
So,
worries.
but it's good to be back. We've got some good momentum going, and some good content that we've recently put out. So, um, looking forward to keeping the year going strong.
Yeah, we've got some good shows coming up. I really enjoyed the interviews we had with Devin, and then last week with Scott Lawler, right? Lawler?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott from La Chase.
from the Chase, yeah, from the Chase Construction. That was great. And then today we are joined by a little different today. Actually, we're joined by Jakob Kirschner, who is a fractional CFO for hire based out of Colorado Springs. Welcome, Jakob. How are you, man?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Thanks for joining us.
Jacob's company is called Peak. I'm sorry, Jakob. No, I don't have it in front of me now. Of course, Peak Advisors or Peak Advisor?
Peak Advisory.
Advisory, based out of Colorado Springs. As you can maybe hear, though, he's got a bit of an accent because Jakob is from Germany. He's going to tell us a little bit more about his story. Jakob, give us the kind of rundown about who you are and about what you do.
Absolutely. So as you said, I'm from Germany, the Stuttgart area, home of Porsche and Mercedes. And yeah, my career path is quite diverse. When I was young, I was doing construction jobs. I was doing gardening, landscaping, that sort of thing. And I even worked twice at the Mercedes plant while I was a student. And once I got kids, I got more serious about this whole like job thing, and I went back to university and got my degree in finance. And I didn't really know beforehand, but I really loved everything about finance and still do. And after university, I started working for international manufacturing companies. I started in bookkeeping and then corporate controlling, and eventually I kind of, did what a CFO does. Like I was in charge of all the international subsidiaries and just having strategy calls every month with the local CEOs. They're usually salespeople, so they're not numbers finance people like me. So there was always a good interaction and kind of pointing them the right way in regards to finances. And about 2 years ago, my family, we relocated here to Colorado from Germany, and I started my business Peak Advisory last year. And
very nice. What brought you over from Germany?
Well,
how
actually,
does one end up in Colorado of all places too?
it's easy. My wife and I, we attended a Bible college here, and then we just decided to love it so much. Our teenagers love it as well, and then we decided to stay.
Very nice. Now, I assume your wife is also German.
Yes.
I'm just curious, like, what's the process for moving from Germany to the United States? Like, did you have to go through the whole like immigration process to move over?
Absolutely, yes. So we didn't come over to like Rio Grande or something, but
No, I would not suggest that.
Funny thing is, a lot of American friends, when they heard how hard it is to get a visa, they all said, well, just go to Mexico and come back in. We're like, now we're going to do it the legal way. So we first came on a student visa. And then with starting the business, there's options of getting an investor's visa when you invest a certain amount of money in the American economy. And then just, you're committed to a business plan, hiring people, making certain amount of money.
Yeah.
So that's the avenue that we took.
No, that's really cool. I understand, like, it's really not an easy process to come here legally anyway, right? Like, my daughter it's interesting because she was just asking me, obviously there's a lot going on in the news and the media, and she's 14 and doesn't really understand, we were having the conversation about, the difference between coming here legally and coming illegally, and why it matters, to come legally, but that it's also not an easy process at all. And I think it's great that you guys went through it, and now you're here. So welcome.
Thank you.
So Peak Advisory. So obviously you have a big finance background, and like you said, you work with a lot of CEOs that are. It's funny you say that too, right? Because I'm a CEO, Derek's a CEO. of our companies, and we are also typically the chief salespeople. And to your point, like, I'm not speaking for Derek, because Derek is really good at the finance end of his business, but I'm terrible at it, man. And I know that a lot of people out there that are CEOs or even like just solopreneurs, like the financial end is really a tough place. There's just so much to it, and it's complicated, and the rules change, and budgeting and forecasting and controlling and all the things you got to do. What does it look like as a fractional CFO for you when you're working with folks like myself or Derek?
Well, as you already mentioned, people that start a business, they're usually really good at providing the service or the product that they have, and they're not trained in finances. And bigger companies always have the advantage they can hire the right people. And a CFO, like, he's in charge of everything finance, but a CFO costs like $200,000 to $300,000 a year. And then oftentimes, even if a company can afford a full-time CFO, they don't even have enough work for a CFO. So he ends up doing other stuff that somebody a lot less expensive could do at the same time. But so the fractional CFO model is really it hasn't been around forever, a couple of years now, and it's just the opportunity for a smaller company to get the CFO knowledge, the expertise, for a fraction of the cost. And so what I do, I work with smaller businesses, like 2 million revenue upwards. That's when it really makes sense, but even below that threshold, it works. And we just have monthly calls, strategy calls. I go through their finances, through their reports, and do all the analysis. And then we have a conversation, and I tell them, like, look for these 2 or 3 things. This is where we need to improve. And just, also a big part of what I do is we do a forecast, cash flow forecast. And just so we have some data that we can kind of look into the future and make simulations. Okay, what happens if this happens? What happens if we buy this thing? So that's what I do.
Yeah. So is that like, so part of that sounds like kind of like the budgeting process, right? Like pretend for a moment that I own a excavation company and I want to buy a new excavator. You're going to sit down with these folks, look at the numbers currently, talk about how things will look 6 months, a year out, 2 years out, and like what it looks like to be able to afford that excavator, the best way to purchase it, financing, cash, blah, blah, blah. Like, is that kind of how that looks, or?
Exactly. Yeah. That's a big part of what I do. Like, your bookkeeper, he records the numbers, and that's very important to have accurate bookkeeping with good data quality. And then we just sit down and look forward, like you said, we want to buy a new excavator. And then we make assumptions on what the year is going to look like, what are our revenue expectations, what are the cost expectations. And I just make sure that you don't forget about different things, like, don't forget about the tax payment that's going to be due, or don't forget about the big software update that you need to buy for your, I don't know, accounting software or whatever. So I mean, every business owner, you always have all those expenses that are coming up. You have them in your head. They're kind of like around, okay, I have to pay this bill, and I have to, pay my employees. But it's hard to keep track on everything. So what I do, like, I put it all down on paper. I want to say it's not paper, obviously, but just to make sure that we don't forget about anything. And so we can have good simulations. Like, what happens if revenue increases by 10%? How does it affect my bank balance? Or what happens if it decreases by 10%? Do I have to have some serious conversations about maybe laying people off and that kind of stuff? And I can't predict the future, but with a simulation, you can go through different scenarios and be prepared. So once something does happen, then you already have an answer what to do.
So now you're not a CPA though, right? Like,
No,
you're
I'm
not
not.
so you don't get into obviously the accounting aspect of things, but do you focus or do you work with your clients on tax planning?
No, at this point, I don't do it. Down the road, I'm looking to hire maybe a CPA so we can offer it as well. But it's more like, like what to do with your finances. The CPA, the bookkeeper, they make sure that you are compliant with the law, that you record everything correctly. And for me, it's more like the strategy going forward. Like how do you reach our goals? What does the map look like to get there?
Financially speaking.
Yeah.
Does that bleed into like, or I shouldn't say does it, because I know that it does. How does it bleed into, let's say, operations or sales and marketing? Like, how does that tie in what you do?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have an overview on your finances, like usually you go by your bank balance, right? You look on the bank, like, okay, there's money in the account, great, I can pay my employees, and I hope I'm gonna have enough money for the truck payment.
Fingers crossed, right?
Exactly. So now I lost my train of thought.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay.
What was the question again?
I'm always interrupting with jokes because I think I'm funny, Jacob. I apologize.
It's all
No,
good.
I guess that, I like when you look at forecasting and kind of like doing
Oh,
simulations for what finance is going to look in the future. I'm just curious of how that, because it obviously it must tie into like business operations a little bit, and it must tie into sales and marketing a little bit. And I'm curious to
yeah.
hear for you how that ties in with the different segments of the business.
Exactly. So that's what I was thinking. We look at the bank balance, and that's all we have. So now that with a fractional CFO, we look at the whole balance, the whole P&L, and we see, okay, we're not making enough money. Like our gross margin is too low to pay for all the overhead that we have. So now, like I say, we have to look on the margin. And I'm not an expert in how to actually get the margin lower, but once you measure something, then you can manage it. And I'm pointing out we have to measure this certain number, and we have to look at, let's say, gross profit. We have to get the gross profit lower. So maybe we can go to talk to our supplier, go lower the prices there a little bit, have a conversation with him, or maybe the accounts payable, the terms that we have longer to pay for it, that kind of stuff. So
what do you think? So I kind of want to, if it's okay, I want to talk about two different segments of the business. Now, I know you said that you work primarily with small business, which I always laugh when I hear that, because like, what's a small business? Like, I think small business is technically defined as being under $100 million in revenue, right?
yeah.
So like, which to me sounds monstrous, right? And to a lot of people listening, I'm sure, especially on the startup side, like $100 million just sounds like it might as well be the moon, right? So let's kind of look at things from two aspects, right? In the small business sector, we've got businesses that are doing that 2 million or more, and then we've got people that are on that startup, and let's just say they're doing under $1 million. No, let's go smaller. Let's say they're doing under $500,000. So to start with like the $2 million segment, what do you think the biggest challenge in the financial aspect of their business is that you see for businesses that are about that $2 million mark?
Well, many times what's challenging for me is that the quality of bookkeeping oftentimes is not very good. So data quality is a big issue. Like who's doing your bookkeeping? Is it your grandma that's doing the bookkeeping, or your aunt Edna that has a degree in trombone or something? And then just things get messed up, and it's bad to have no data at all, but it might even be worse to have data and think it's good data and make decisions based on the data, and then you realize the data is off, the decision was wrong. And so that's what I see as a big challenge. And like as I said, you're good at selling your service, your product, and you might have a blind spot not knowing how important it is to know about your finances, about the different metrics like gross profit, net profit, what is your margin, that kind of stuff. So it's when you're ignorant of this, then it just the danger is there that you make bad decisions about your finances. And the statistics, I mean, I don't know exact numbers, but something like 60% of businesses don't make it past 5 years, and I think 80% close before 10 years of business. And most of the reasons is bad financial decisions. It's not necessarily that the product is bad or so, but really bad financial decisions.
Yeah, mismanaging funds and, like you
Exactly.
said, just making bad decisions.
No.
What do you think that like a $2 million business versus a $500,000 business, do you think one of them has a larger room for error in bad financial decision making?
it depends, like how much cash do you have in reserves? I mean, a
Yeah.
2 million business could be just barely hanging on, just getting every job they can at a low margin and just, getting deeper into in the hole with every job. And on the other hand, a company with 500,000 can have like a cash reserve of 3 months, 6 months. And so it's hard to tell. So it's really
Yeah.
the same struggles actually. I mean,
So,
yeah.
so I was just gonna say, kind of similar, to the $2 million. What do you think for companies that are at 500 or less than 500,000? Is it the same problem, or is there a different challenge for a company that size that you think would be one of the bigger challenges they face?
Well, even if a smaller company, even if they make good money, then just the absolute amount is lower. So you might not make those huge financial decisions, but if you buy a truck for $80,000 as a $500,000 company, it can get you in the same hole as if a 2 million 2 million revenue company, they decide to buy a big machine for, I don't know, $1 million or something. It's just
Yeah,
the scale is different, but the effect that it can have on your bottom line, on your cash, it's just the same.
it's just the same. Yeah, yeah, it's
Maybe
Now,
interesting.
Jacob,
one major difference that for bigger companies, there's more employees that are involved. So if you screw
Hmm.
up, then you have a responsibility for your employees, right? So
Yeah. What's up, Derek?
so
You're gonna say
Jacob,
something?
yeah, one question that I have, and I would assume, and actually two questions. One, how does your approach differ when you're working with a business that's maybe doing $500,000 in revenue versus a company that's maybe doing 2 million plus? That was the first one, and then the second question: do you advise clients on different financing options and how to leverage financing?
Okay, first question. It's not really that different. The thing is, for smaller companies, as you mentioned, with 500,000, it's the benefit of hiring somebody like me is kind of, it doesn't outweigh the cost as much. So it's kind of hard to do this, to have a fractional CFO at this low level of revenue. But the things that are important is the same thing, like invest in good bookkeeping, make sure you have good data, and look at your data and just try to understand it. And you can still even ask your bookkeeper and your accountant. I mean, that's not per se what they do, but still, if you ask questions and ask more questions, then they can help you as well, even if you can't afford yet a fractional CFO. In regards to financing, yes, we definitely look at the way the finances are structured. If you're like using credit cards all the time to kind of make your business run, then we will definitely look into if we can refinance. I'm not an expert on this, but I have partners that are really good with this.
Got it. Very cool.
Yeah, that interest is gonna kill you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
Even
it's
a
interesting.
small thing, maybe a small nugget, like if you have your customers pay with credit cards, then there's always that fee, and that's something that we look at right away. How big are your fees that you pay for your credit card provider? And if you use ACH payment or something like that, you can definitely lower that, and that's already goes directly to your net profit if you reduce your overhead like that.
Yeah, Derek, where are you at in that cycle of things, Derek? Are you still accepting a lot of credit card payments, or have you tried to switch everybody over to ACH?
So it's again, there's advantages to both, right? There's the convenience factor of being able to collect a credit card. So, there's a number of different ways that we look at it. So we take a number of different payment options, one being ACH, another credit card, and we also accept the old-fashioned check.
Yeah.
The advantage to taking a credit card is increasing that time to pay, so to speak. And you know, what we've done, with some of our clients who pay by check and typically take a little bit longer, we've actually offered some early payment discounts to them to help offset that differential and help speed up the collections process. But,
Oh, it's
as
interesting.
you grow, you spend more and more time, following up with clients, and, especially if you're working with bigger companies, they have a process to process invoices and pay those invoices on a certain time or certain date of the month. And if you don't have your invoices to them and they're not correct and they're not processed by that date, you get pushed to the next month. So very easily, I mean, that whole payment cycle could go from, 30 days to 90 pretty quickly. So, and again, contacts change at different companies as well. So if somebody leaves an organization and you're sending invoices electronically to a contact and they're no longer there and nobody's getting them, sometimes you can run into an issue. So, we've just tried to be more forward with that. And, we have different options. So some clients prefer just to go ACH and don't have to worry about it. There's no fees, and others still prefer to pay with an old-fashioned check or credit card, So we try to work with the clients on that, but Jacob's absolutely right. I mean, sometimes on some projects that, that percentage might be, half or 3/4 of your net profit.
Exactly.
Yeah, depending on what your margins are, right? Like,
yeah,
I know I definitely do not like the credit card fees that I pay, Jacob. That's for sure, man. It's like we do, I don't know, I want to say probably 50 or 60% of our revenue is paid with by credit card. And like, it's only 3%, but man, that adds up and it can be a lot of money. Yeah. And so what do you do to, I mean, really the option is just kind of moving people to ACH or taking check if you want to get away from those fees, or are there other options available to people?
Yeah, I mean, Derek was right. Like, you can't like completely push it on your customers, but if you're aware of the negative part of the credit cards, and then just try to push towards ACH and try to get as many on there, just to bring down the fees. That's just one little piece. I mean, it's really about the incremental gains. Like, usually there isn't like one huge thing that changes everything, but there's a whole bunch of little things, and if you just add them together and you just increase your margins by like 1.5–2%, that already has a huge impact on your bottom line.
Yeah. What do you do? I mean, is it a part of it? So like, and Derek and I have talked about this. So like I have a huge AR problem in my business, right? Like I am constantly chasing a large dollar figure of accounts receivable, which always messes up your cash flow. Do you work when people have that kind of problem? Do you work with folks with that kind of stuff? Like, is that a part of the scope that you do?
Absolutely, that's a big part that we look at account receivables, because that's where your cash is, right? And you kind of financing your customers, and so it's really about strategies. How can we bring that down? The aging of the account receivables. What strategies can you take to, get the money sooner from your customer? Maybe have them give you a down payment before the project starts, and depending on what industry you're in, how long the projects are, maybe a payment in between or something, just to look at your options, and don't just accept the fact, well, they're just going to be late with paying.
They're going to be late payers. Yeah, it's going to take them 6 months. So how do you, what was I going to ask you? As far as when you're working with your clients, right? Like, what does it look like for you to get started and to kick things off with your clients?
So we usually have a discovery call, and then I'll just try to learn as much as possible about the business, about the current situation, about the goals of the business owner. Where does he want to go? Like, why does he even reach out to me? And then I have different packages, and depending on the financial situation and the urgency of the issue at hand, it's either like a quarterly call. We have a strategy call once a quarter with check-in calls in between, or it's a monthly package where we have a check-in call after 2 weeks. And yeah, I'm just there for the business owner. He can write me emails in between, like, doesn't cost extra or anything. I'm passionate about helping business owners just to get really good with their finances. So
yeah, well, we all need it, or not all of us. Some of us need it anyway. Some of us are really good.
Some more and some less.
yeah.
Well, there's always it's hard to learn. It's hard to learn, Mike. And again, I'm usually one to learn the hard way, but it's
same.
It's one of those mistakes that can, if it's on the finance side, and I've made plenty of them where they can be rather costly. So I could definitely see that that investment paying off for sure. And one thing, Jacob, and that was challenging for me, and we're as we grow, we're constantly looking at it and trying to figure out how to beat the competition and be as competitive as possible. So you know, in your opinion, or do you work with business owners as well to figure out what their actual labor cost is and, you know, what they can come in and bid projects at? Is that something that you take a look at as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. We look at all the finances, and labor cost is a big part of it. And we just analyze it. What is the actual cost per hour? Like, and if you have an employee and he's only on projects for half of the time of the time he works for you, then his per hour is twice as high as if he were like 8 hours a day instead of 4 hours, So definitely that's a very important part.
Cost of goods sold, right? Is that labor is a part of cost of goods sold?
Yeah.
I know for a lot of, I mean, that's like probably my biggest piece of cost of goods sold for what we do is our labor. You know, we don't have a lot of hard costs for what we do, little software subscriptions here and there,
No.
but yeah.
But I mean, just as an example, like labor costs, there isn't really much you can do about it, because if you offer too low your salary, then you're not gonna get the good employees. But
That's right.
if you look at how many hours can you charge actually of their work, and that's usually the leverage where you can make increases in your profit, that you just look at your processes, like what can we do that our guys work one customer more per week, something like that.
Mhm.
Or for a service business. I heard the story, like it's not been one of my clients, but somebody else shared it. There was this guy, his employees were out on service calls, and he was trying to figure out how can we have him one more job per day. And he did a little contest Friday morning, and he said, okay, the first team that gets me the tools and the parts that's needed for a normal average job, the first that brings it back to me, they're going to get $100 each. So that helped them to have their tool vans sorted and in order, and just be more efficient about what they do. And he ended up getting this extra job in per day, and since his overhead was already paid for, that additional job that he put in every day, that directly went to his net profits. So he didn't have to hire anyone. He didn't have to change his prices, because I mean, if you're in a competitive market, then you don't have that much wiggle room for pricing. But if you work on that part, on the efficiency, that's also a big thing.
Yeah, it's how to increase productivity, right? I know that I know for us, because a lot of what we do is hourly. So when I look at my employees, I'm like, all right, so we need you're gonna work 40 hours each week. I need 25 of those hours billable. So and so long as we're hitting that 25 out of 40 hours, then I know that we're making money and we're profitable. And if we're under that, then we're going in the wrong direction and we got to make some
Exactly.
changes, right? Like, yeah, that whole ratio is crazy. What now? Do you typically work with a specific type of business or size business or industry? Like, how do you? What does that look like for you?
My favorite clients are blue collar construction. I just love those people, and
Yeah,
that's what I usually work with. Yeah.
yeah, they're good people. I guess you're in the right
Hardworking,
place then, right?
down to
Yeah.
earth.
And I meant to ask you earlier when you said it, but you said you worked at the Mercedes factory in Germany. What did you do at the Mercedes factory? Just curious, nothing to do with really what we're talking about.
Yeah. I got lucky. I got trained as a forklift driver. So what
Okay.
I did, there was a in-house train that came from a different plant, and that brought the doors and the hoods and the trunks. So I had to get the pallets from the train and bring them to the assembly line, and just going back and forth from morning till late, and it was well paid.
You ever dump it?
Wow.
I didn't dump it, but one time I was working on the Friday late shift, so it was about 10 at night, just half an hour before end of the shift. I kind of damaged a little bit on one of those assembly line things. So the whole plant, the assembly line, stood because of my mistake, and
Oh, that you shut the whole place down?
Oh
exactly,
no.
because and then the guy, like, it's the weekend in half an hour, and he had to fix it so on Monday morning the guys can start working again. So he was kind of mad at me, but that happens. But that was the only incident I had.
Was everybody else excited because they got to go home early because the plant was shut down a half hour early?
You were a hero.
Yeah, that's it. That one
Yeah.
guy hated you, but everybody else, you made their weekend, right?
Yeah,
That's
but
amazing.
I did get hired back, so it wasn't that bad.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but What do you mean hired back? You mean like, did they fire you
This the
because of that, or?
second. No, well, I was a
Oh,
temp worker. I was a student, and I was just working the
oh,
summer break, and then the next summer break, I did get to go back, so that was good.
all right. What's not been that bad then? I'm just curious, as far as like tools and software and things like that. What do you have anything specific that you work with clients that you use, or is it really just more about what they have already integrated into their business?
Usually what they have integrated. I mean, QuickBooks Online is the most common. That's the
Hmm.
easiest, but I'm willing to work with other softwares as well. Like part of what I did before in the international company, I had subsidiaries all over the world, and everybody had a different software, and you just
Hmm.
have to adapt. And I mean, per se, they're always the same. They look different, but you
Yeah.
usually get the same kind of data out of the bookkeeping software, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Are you integrating any kind of AI platforms or softwares into what you do right now?
Not
I'm
at
just
this
wondering
moment.
how.
No, no.
Oh no, yeah. I'm just always curious about, you can't fall down without hitting an AI software of some sort for some industry these days. So I'm just wondering if
I
it's
mean, AI is a good helper, like writing letters or, just
Mhm.
all sorts of little stuff. If I have a contract that I pulled off the internet, then I run it to ChatGPT just to see what is the opinion and where's
Yeah,
improvements. Like that saves a lot of time. So I'm totally
yeah.
fine with that. But like my core work, I don't use it.
I know, Derek, you just started integrating a piece of technology. Should we talk about that real quick? Or is that for
Well, it's
later?
not yeah, we're not 100% there yet, but
Okay, we'll
no,
wait
we
then.
have yeah, we'll hold off on that, but we have used, and I've started encouraging, our staff and our management staff to utilize, as Jacob said, Copilot as a helper.
Mm.
The Microsoft platform, they added that in there, and
Yep.
um I want to say they're charging a little bit extra for it now, but um it is a big efficiency boost when it comes to you know, writing emails, getting, basic outlines written. And I tell
Hmm.
everybody, you can't rely on it. You still have to do the work, but it can at least get you a start and point you in the right direction. So that's been pretty helpful recently.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really curious to see how everyone, because it seems like everybody at some point here now is integrating it in some fashion. Like you said, you can't get away from it. It's here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example with our snowstorm here. And Jacob, I'm sure you're used to them in Colorado, but we've been battling the salt in our business. It's always every winter it's a battle. And some clients choose to use the good high quality salt. Others use the not so great kind, and it will make an absolute mess. So we were struggling a little bit with that, and AI has actually helped us come up with a good solution for that. So you can ask it anything.
You can ask it anything. Yeah. I've actually been using it kind of similar to my Google search now, where I'll like, instead of asking Google a question, I'll get in the chat GPT and like, hey, well, here's the question, round up this information. It's pretty interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
Jacob,
Jacob, oh, go ahead, D.
oops, sorry.
No,
No,
you're
one
fine. Go ahead.
question that I wanted to ask, as you have been working with small businesses, what's the top one or two mistakes that you see small business owners making that you think is important for them or for everybody else that's listening to understand and be aware of?
I mean, I've been vocal about this already, data quality and not having a plan in place. And just this having a cash flow forecast, it just helps to take off so much stress, because you don't have to juggle everything in the back of your mind about what's coming up with my finances and, ooh, is it going to work? Am I going to have enough money? And because you can plan ahead, you can see what happens, you can make simulations, different assumptions, and then you can take measures. If you see, okay, and I'm going to have an issue in May because I'm going to have to pay my taxes, I'm not going to have enough money, then you can start ahead of time and secure a line of credit maybe. Or you can, you think you have tons of money in the bank to pay cash for your truck, but you forgot about another expense that's coming up, and then you're screwed because you paid cash and you should have financed it. And so from my perspective, number one mistake is not planning ahead properly.
Got it.
or trying to do it without data, just in your head. And I mean, we all do that all the time, but the longer the time period, the more difficult it gets, and then you just tend to drop some balls. That's just how it is.
Mhm. Yeah, doing it in your head. I definitely fall victim to that sometimes. I'm trying to get better though, man. It's the finance side.
We all do.
It's, I'm good at sales, I'm good at marketing, I'm good at operations, but that finance side is just tough. I know there's a lot of people listening that fall into that category too. So I'm glad that we're able to get you on. What about kind of moving on to the segment of the show where we ask kind of some of those weird questions. You got any crazy morning routines that you do to get your day going and get sharp for the day, or what does that look like for you, Jacob?
When I shower, I always end with a cold shower. That kind of wakes me up.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, ending on the cold. Yeah.
If I don't get my cold shower, then I'm kind of like, I'm missing something.
Yeah, it's pretty refreshing. Wakes you right up.
And what I want to get into is go for a morning walk. I love going for walks just to get my brain all aired up, and like usually at some point during the day I do that, and I've been thinking about doing it in the morning before I start, but it's cold here in the morning, so I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's I like a good morning walk as well, actually.
Mike's got his Mike, do you have your ruck pack?
I do.
Doing your rucks? Yeah.
It's funny. What I started doing recently was, obviously we talked about before we started recording about some of the farm stuff. And when I go out in the morning, it takes me about a half hour, 45 minutes in the morning when I'm going out and getting hay for some of the animals, feeding the pigs, especially this time of year, water is a pain in the ass. So, because it just keeps freezing, right? So you got to keep going out there. So now actually what I do is I throw a 30-pound pack on. And then while I'm going out and doing my farm chores, I've got the 30-pound pack, which just makes everything harder, right? So whether I'm bending over to pick something up, or I got to do this or grab that, I'm walking around, I got 30 extra pounds on me, and I'm trying to work that number up. I started off at 20, now I'm at 30, trying to work it up to 45. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
workout.
But yeah, I got my, it's not like one of those fancy ruck packs that like you put the plates in. This is just a backpack that I throw a couple kettlebells,
some bricks in it.
Yeah,
that'll get it done.
Pretty much, yeah. But that's been my thing lately. And then and if I get it done quicker, then I'll kind of walk around. Like we got 45 acres, so I'll go walk around in the woods a little bit, and check out, see what nature's doing in the morning. But
so
great.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, Mike, too. I took your advice and started putting some of that grass-fed butter in my coffee. And
oh yeah,
it's definitely a game changer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, you blend that shit up. It's like a frothy, salty, I don't know, something latte, whatever. But it's yummy though. Yeah, it's good stuff. Now you got to get into the cold plunges, D.
I have a cold plunge. It's currently frozen in my
Get a hatchet
on my back patio. Yeah, I fractured a tooth, as I told you, and kind of just did away with some of that stuff for a little bit, got out of my routine, but looking forward to getting back to it. But yeah, unfortunately I had it filled up, and we got that cold spell, so now I got a solid block of ice that's sitting in my back patio.
Well, listen, just go over to Tractor Supply. They make those little horse trough heaters that you can plug in with an extension cord. Throw it right on top. It'll take a day or two, and it'll melt down through the ice, and then it'll get in there, and it'll warm it up. And even this time of the year, I mean, the water's like 45 degrees from that horse heater. So yeah, that's all you need, buddy.
I'll have to try it.
So Derek, no excuses, huh?
That's right.
That's it. I feel like I'm making excuses now. I got to get back to it.
Like I get in there every day. I don't. This time of the year, it's really tough to walk outside and get into a cold plunge, but a couple times a week keeps it moving. Yeah. Jacob, I know we're getting close on time. If you were going to give one piece of advice to someone listening, and you can only give them one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Good question. Make sure your data in accounting is good.
Yeah. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. And once you have good data, there's always somebody there that can help you interpret the data. But if you don't have good data, then it's a lost cause kind of until you have good data.
Yeah. What if people need to find you, get a hold of you, they got questions for you, maybe they want to look at hiring you, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
I think the best way is with over my website. It's peakadvisory.us, and I have a contact form on there, and so you can get in touch with me, book a discovery call, and then we can take it from there.
That's awesome. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you reaching out and introducing yourself to us too, man. I was really excited to talk to you and learn more about fractional CFO
Maybe
stuff.
I can share something about that since we already touched on AI. I was actually trying out a software that's using AI to write those pitches. Have to say I wasn't too impressed with it. Just, like if I write something, it's a little higher quality. So sometimes I was embarrassed, and I got some feedback from some people, like, but it was worth a try.
Yeah. Did you think because it just the sentence structure and the way it flowed just was a little clunky, or
more content? Some of it was kind of cringe. Like I would never write like that, but it was a trade-off, because the software would automatically send out emails, and I would have had to do it all manually. So I was willing to try it out, but I didn't continue with the software because I'm like
you literally you gave it instructions, and then it just basically it wrote the emails and sent them out to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Were we one of them?
Very cool.
You were one of those.
Go figure.
Well, I didn't even know.
That's funny. So Mike, it does do one thing. It proves that we check our email, so you can reach us, right?
Exactly.
And by the way, I don't think we've shared our new email address yet, Mike.
I don't know if we have. I will check with the team and see if they changed it on the website. I know that we're doing a whole brand refresh and rebuilding the website on a new platform. So I don't know if they were waiting to make that change, but I'll double check though. And if any of you have reached out to us via email and did not get a response, it could be we had a problem with our email address, the hardhat@bluecollarstartup.io. Derek and I both spent a significant amount of time trying to rectify the problem, and we finally just gave up on it. So if you're emailing that address, we're not going to be able to receive it, and we may have missed it. So please reach back out to us. I'll have Taylor put the new address, the email address, in the show notes of this recording. So whether you're on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or whatever, there should be an email address in the comments that you can send us a message at if you're interested in coming on the show, or you've got a question or a comment, or you just want to give Derek some shit about getting in the cold plunge, whatever it is.
That's it. Fire away.
And real quick, I should say I think I'm wearing my MLB hat here.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks to the folks over at MLB Construction for being one of our sponsors and helping us with some money for, I think that was going to BOCES, right?
Yes.
Is that where that's going, Derek?
We're working on coordinating that with Jared over there. So
very nice. And then also thanks to Michael's group, also sponsoring and helping us give some money that we were able to give to HBCC, the Blue Collar College, and also BOCES. So thanks to both of those companies locally. Really appreciate it. I know we've had some other people reach out about sponsorships too, and we're super grateful that folks are reaching out to help us not only pay for the show, the production costs, but also to help give money back to the community and help kids coming through college that are need books and tuition assistance and all that fun stuff. So if you are interested in being a sponsor, please let us know. Reach out. We can give you a rundown on what that looks like and how to get involved. And thanks everybody for listening. And Jacob, thanks for coming on. Derek, thanks for everything you do.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
thanks, Jacob.
Make sure we stay in contact, and thanks everybody for listening. Until next time, let's see. Next week, who do we got next week, Derek?
We have actually, what we have coming up, Mike, which is great. We have a couple new business startups that'll be on. We have one next week, and then the following week we have the guys from Reifenberg Construction coming on, which will be a great episode. So really looking forward to that. And then I think you had mentioned that we have another new business that's going to be coming on the podcast the week after that. So yes, looking forward to it. We got a lot of good stuff lined out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody, and until next week.